In this edition of Southern Newsweek, Invercargill's drinking water supply is about to be upgraded after complaints about an earthy taste. Dunedin school children help to reveal the harmful effects of dredging on Otago harbour. And we find out why it's hoped a fruity redevelopment in Cromwell will entice more than just a photo op from visitors. Kia ora, I'm Holly Buchanan. Invercargill's water treatment plant is receiving a significant upgrade as the water it supplies doesn't always comply with national drinking standards. The City Council says the nearly $12 million project is well timed as reports of an earthy taste tend to occur in summer. But residents may have to wait until March for a complete fix.
There's something in the water and it doesn't taste that good. The Invercargill City Council is spending $11.7 million upgrading its water treatment plant. Water manager Alistair Murray says the poor water quality has left a bad taste in residents' mouths.
Despite our best efforts, the plant doesn't always produce water that complies with the New Zealand drinking water standards. And we've had a long-standing problem in the summer months, as I'm sure most residents will be aware. We do get an earthy taste in our water. We have applied treatment since the early 1990s, and while it has some positive effects, it doesn't completely reduce the taste and odour.
He says the upgrade has taken a few years already, but most of that time has been spent planning.
It's been in the going for a good 3 years. The first year and a half was spent in examining the shortcomings of the existing plant and in evaluating various options to come up with the most suitable one. Then we went into a period for almost a year of detailed design, culminating in the letting of a contract to carry out the construction works about Christmas last year.
The major work began in June this year, with the council building new structures to house new processing equipment. Murray says a new chemical is being used to get rid of the earthy smell and taste. However, it has its own issues, requiring more building.
Unfortunately, as a result of the oxidation of the taste and odour producing substances, it can produce a byproduct which could promote the growth of slime in our pipes. So we're having to pass the treated water through carbon filters to eliminate that potential.
He says the project has a total cost of more than $11 million, and residents are footing the bill through rates.
The total construction is about 11.7 million. The contract we've let with UGL is only for part of it, it's the bulk of it, about $9.9 million. We're undertaking to replace the media in our filters using our own staff, but we have to buy in the filters, that's around about 0.9 of a million. And the detailed design and observation, supervision of the contract is another 0.9 million.
The work is due to be completed in March next year. Daryl Baser, The South Today.
Dunedin police are hoping a public appeal can help return a number of recently stolen items to the rightful owners. Officers apprehended a man with the loot last month, and while he's now before the courts, the owners of some goods remain outstanding.
Is any of this property yours? It's believed to have been stolen in Dunedin between July and August this year. Police are looking to get these things back to the rightful owners after apprehending a man with the loot. He's now before the courts on theft charges.
As a result of that arrest, we recovered a large amount of property. We've been able to return some of that to their rightful owners, but we still have a number of items that are outstanding. We would ask people to look over these items and see if they can recognise whether or not they belong to them or they belong to one of their friends or family.
Senior Sergeant Butterfield says some of the pieces are quite rare or unique, or have recognisable features. He's hoping that'll help people in identifying their gear. He says there are ways people can protect their property that also assist police in the process of returning stolen items.
We would suggest that if people do have items of value, that they refer to the SNAP website and log their property and serial numbers with the police. So in the unlikely event that they are taken, we're able to return them to them very quickly.
Pocket watches, commemorative coins, cameras, wallets and a distinctive Cambodian lighter are among the items police are trying to return to owners. They say the alleged offender, a 26-year-old man, is due to appear in the Dunedin District Court on October the 13th in relation to theft and burglary charges. Daryl Baser, The South Today.
Dredging has a harmful impact on the harbour, according to the results of a local study. Children of all ages have been working alongside scientists to gauge the impact of harbour development, and now their work program is being extended by the government.
Dunedin pupils ranging in age from recent entrants to high schoolers have spent much of this year studying the effects of dredging on Otago Harbour. University of Otago senior lecturer Chris Hepburn says he isn't surprised to have learnt something from the youngsters.
I'm pretty impressed by their capability and their knowledge. A lot of the stuff we'd almost teach at university level, so they're not doing stuff too far away from what the job might be in the future, so I'm really impressed by what they can do.
The study was part of a nationwide pilot science scheme which has high school pupils working with scientists to research specialist topics. Today's presentation of local results included a government announcement to expand the program.
So very excited to announce that the Participatory Science Platform has had its funding extended through till the end of next year. So one of our three funding areas is Otago, and so that means that the Otago Museum will be able to solicit more applications and get a whole lot more projects like this funded through till end of 2017.
Port Otago has resource consent to increase the size of the channel in Otago Harbour. The company's scientist was on hand this afternoon outlining the reasons behind the development.
Yes, that's possible, but we are doing as much work as possible to make sure that the dredging that we are doing doesn't affect the environment, and we have mitigation measures in place as well to, if there is any potential effects from the dredging, to mitigate those.
Magruder says she's impressed by the work of all involved in the study and admits Port Otago's dredging of the harbour is a contentious issue. The pupils clearly enjoyed presenting their findings after learning about the past, present and future of Otago Harbour. Daryl Baser, The South Today.
Dunedin's Abbeyfield Communal House for those 55 years and older is looking to change the way it operates. Managers are needing to raise $100,000 to drive the changes, and they're planning an Antiques Roadshow event to generate revenue.
Showing, telling and hoping to raise a lot of money. The Abbeyfield community is planning a change, from people buying units to simply renting them. The facility has been operating in Dunedin for a decade, and staff say it's time for a change.
Convert Abbeyfield from an owner-occupied model to a completely rental model, and in that process to make sure that we can bring the rent down to a much more affordable level for everyone in the city.
She says the move reflects the country's changing economic climate, and staff are hoping to effect change themselves by reducing the cost of living on site.
There's a lot of people in the city who can't actually afford to go into retirement villages. Lots of people, as we know, don't own their own home these days, or even if they do, they mightn't have enough equity in their house to go into a retirement village, or they actually might just want the small scale of what we actually offer at Abbeyfield.
One of the major ways the team is trying to do this is through an inaugural Antiques Roadshow style event. Staff are now calling for donations of sellable items to go under the hammer.
It's the first time we've done an Antiques Roadshow, and we've invented the event. It's a wee bit of an extension of the Antiques Roadshow idea because we've added an auction element to it as well.
She says the home's already accepted a raft of curios to be auctioned, including an Australian 1981 Magnum of Cabernet Sauvignon, a couple of clocks, among a host of artworks. Malcolm says staff are hoping to raise $10,000 on auction night next month. She says that'll boost the $30,000 already banked from grants and donations. Daryl Baser, The South Today.
The latest stage of the Cromwell Town Centre redevelopment is beginning to take shape. Work on the Big Fruit Reserve started in July and is on schedule to be completed by November. And locals are hoping it'll entice passers-by to stop for more than just a photo opportunity.
The central Otago township of Cromwell is located in the valley of the Upper Clutha, and it's well known for its giant fruit sculpture. It's gone through many changes over the years, and now locals want to make sure the traffic driving past is enticed into the township by upgrading its town centre.
In the past it's been a little bit barren and dry, which is typical of the area. But sometimes you've got to say, here goes a point of difference, and give people something other than just the fruit to look at, and then they might, hopefully, they will come into town, and we'll all benefit by that.
Work on the northern face of the mall's been completed, along with some other areas, but there's still a lot to be done on the Big Fruit Reserve. The Community Board are expecting this stage to be finished by November, weather permitting.
Big thing about the construction works now is we're into that season where nor'westers are pretty prevalent, so we're trying to get things done before the dust becomes a big issue.
Gillespie says one of the biggest challenges for any community is securing funding for projects such as this, and he's adamant no undue strain is put on the ratepayers.
This particular part of the project here is about $700,000. We're funding it mostly from our reserves contributions that we collect as part of developments in the town. And trying hard not to go back to ratepayers and make it a direct rate.
One of the main aims has been to encourage people to call into the Cromwell town centre rather than stop for a photo at the Big Fruit and continue on. But Gillespie also wants to see generations of locals benefit from the project.
And I want all the ones that grow up here to leave and say they're proud to come from Cromwell, and that's where the Big Fruit is, and that's where this is, and that is. And then I'd like to see them come back, because the strength of a community is in the people.
By November, the view from the main highway will not only show off the shiny Big Fruit, but there will also be a vista right into the heart of the community. Dee Karen, The South Today.
Coming up on Southern Newsweek, Otago's film industry marks a milestone, and it's not just up-and-coming filmmakers that are benefiting. And Invercargill school pupils learn a valuable lesson as they prepare for an upcoming journey. Welcome back. Otago's film industry is marking a milestone as a new batch of local works are prepared for production. It's the 10th year of operation for Short Film Otago, which helps budding filmmakers launch their creativity. But the region's scriptwriters aren't the only ones benefiting.
Getting camera ready. The local film industry is chugging along nicely, thanks in part to a decade of support from Short Film Otago. The organisation started in 2006 and is funded by the Otago Community Trust.
And to date we have produced 12 short films in the Otago region, and we have 2 more in production, another with a provisional funding offer, and we have 4 scripts that are about to go into script development.
Each year the organisation puts a call out to writers across the region for scripts. Submitted works are blind judged and a select few are approved for production. SFO gives each successful writer up to $10,000, ultimately aiming to foster creativity within the film sector locally.
And we expect the filmmakers to spend about $10,000. We don't let people bring in much extra money, so we are looking for filmmakers who have a plan to make a credible, convincing, compelling film on that budget.
He says despite financial restrictions, the quality of scripts and production goes up every year. Broken is among the latest crop, recently premiered in Dunedin. Writer and director Scott Mowat says $10,000 isn't enough to fund a short film entirely, but the scheme works well.
There's a lot of people in town that have skills and equipment that you can borrow and that they're happy to lend, and with those sort of partnerships you can produce short films.
His work centres around an old man who's tormented by the memory of his abusive father and confronts his past to make good on a 50-year promise.
It's all shot just outside Gore on a hunting estate and at Nichols Creek up in Dunedin, which all somehow fit nicely into the Fjordland scenario.
SFO estimates that every dollar it invests in the community unlocks between $5 and $10 of in-kind support for Otago filmmakers. Another 2 or 3 projects are expected to go into production later this year. Rosie Mannins, The South Today.
Invercargill primary school pupils are preparing for a journey across Fovo Strait. The Year 6 students at Sacred Heart School are fundraising for an upcoming camp on Stewart Island. And they've been learning a valuable lesson in the process.
Making the most of a diversion away from class. Sacred Heart School pupils have been enjoying a fundraising market for those heading to camp on Stewart Island. Teachers say the preparation itself has involved a valuable lesson.
It's awesome for them just to show that you do need to work to make a little bit of money, and camp is it's it's $250, and it just teaches them that money doesn't grow on trees and it's not just handed out.
The Year 6 pupils heading to camp have been busy over the last few weeks, spending hours in the kitchen making sellable treats.
Some of them have been baking for quite a wee while. I know Kate's been baking for a few weeks each night.
But it wasn't just sugar tempting buyers at the market, where a range of creative crafts were for sale. Stalls offering accessories and playful wardrobe additions were also popular.
One of the girls knitted some cats and owls with her nana. We've got some hair accessories with bows and headbands and clips and things like that.
For some of the children, the camp at Stewart Island will include their first fishing experience. Students will also be involved in activities with the Department of Conservation. But even this market fundraiser has them buzzing.
I enjoyed selling my things and seeing all the happy faces after I was selling my gingerbread men. They've actually got some really cool stuff that they're selling, like really funky, nice stuff that they're selling. Being able to fundraise and learn that money just doesn't come from anything, that you've got to fundraise sometimes to go places like Stewart Island for camp. I enjoyed everyone being happy and seeing everyone smile and selling my things that I made.
The Year 6 pupils will be heading to camp on the 26th, ready to enjoy the fruits of their labour. Rosie Mannins, The South Today.
After the break on Southern Newsweek, the popularity of hip-hop signals the need for a bigger venue in order to stage a national championship. And we take a look at the activities many indulged in recently to celebrate a moon festival. Welcome back. The New Zealand Competitive Aerobics Federation is gearing up for its 21st National Championships in Dunedin. The event was last held in the city in 2013, and since then the hip-hop element of the competition has exploded, and that's meant organisers have had to find a bigger venue to accommodate the dance crews.
These young athletes are getting in some final preparation before they perform at this weekend's National Aerobics and Hip-Hop Championships. Competitors are arriving from as far afield as Auckland and Invercargill for the 3-day event.
We've got 27 hip-hop crew, which is 184 athletes, and we have 132 aerobics routines, so that's 219 athletes.
With that many competitors and support crews taking part in the hip-hop competition, it's forced organisers to provide a bigger venue.
We maxed our numbers for our regional event. We didn't have enough seating for them, so we had to look for a bigger venue, so we're going to the town hall for our hip-hop nationals.
Both genres of the sport focus on cardio fitness, flexibility, coordination and synchronicity. And aerobics athlete Jade Fielding has mastered all of those qualities. Her gymnastics background has helped her conquer the skills needed for the high-impact moves.
Started off doing NZ-CAF aerobics, and so I did that for 4 years, but this year I've decided to move into FISAF aerobics, which is a progression off that which can go international.
The RASA School of Dance hip-hop crew Imprint are putting the finishing touches on their routine and tightening up their moves to be competition ready. And their coach says they're always looking for ways to improve.
Of course the competition is a different kind of level, we're trying to get excellence, but hip-hop in general is a way to express yourself and just move, and movement makes you feel good, yeah.
The National Aerobics and Hip Hop Championships is on in Dunedin this weekend, and for everyone taking part, it will be time to step up on the stage and put their best foot forward. Dee Karen, The South Today.
Southland race commentator Dave McDonald was in the box at Ascot Park recently, 40 years after he called his first race there. The New Zealand Racing Board organised a function to celebrate his achievement, with many of his colleagues, past and present, joining in. And after so long in the job, he says it's not the horses or the dogs that have had the most impact.
Race 8 on the cards at Ascot Park was the Thanks Davy Mac for 40 years mobile pace, and Davy Mac himself was calling it. He grew up living at the Winton Racecourse and says his early love of commentating drove his mum round the bend. It was a trip to Forbury Park when he was 15 that gave him his first break.
The local trainer, Harry Cox, he said there was no commentator, and he said, well, you think you can do it, kid? Get up the stairs and have a go. So I did. I was totally terrified, but I knew it's what I wanted to do.
McDonald makes the call for harness, gallops and greyhound meetings and enjoys all three codes. He's not exactly sure how many races he's commentated, but estimates it to be a staggering 35,000. It's a job that requires a sharp, short-term memory.
And nothing goes to plan, as you know, in life, and there's probably about 6 of those I'd rather do again. But I guess 6 out of 35,000 is not a bad strike rate.
The New Zealand Racing Board organised a celebration at Ascot Park, bringing together McDonald's former colleagues, along with current callers and presenters. He says it's the people he's met and worked with over the years that have brought him the most enjoyment.
They are such wonderful people, and they were so good to me early on when I started out. I was a kid. I mean, I knew nothing about gallops. They didn't put me down. They made sure I learnt, and they were just so nice to me. People like Brian Anderton and Rex Cochrane, Ray Pankhurst and Ted Winslow.
Fellow commentator Jason Teaz grew up listening to McDonald calling races on the radio until Trackside came on the scene in the mid-90s. He says he's always looked up to McDonald and admires his longevity in the industry.
It's amazing. You know, you try and picture one person outside really that have done a job for 40 years and still been very good at it. You know, most people, they get to that point and they just start declining or they retire, but Davey, he's still one of the most accurate callers that you hear.
McDonald reckons he's still got a couple of good years left in him, but says it won't be up to him when it comes time to call his last race. In a career spanning 40 years, he's taken the highlights along with the low times, calling memorable races and seeing great horses, but it's the people in the racing industry that have had the most impact on the southern caller. Dee Karen, The South Today.
And finally, hordes of Dunedinites joined with the city's Chinese community in celebrating the annual Moon Festival. People of all ages and nationalities took part in craft work and cooking activities and watched traditional performances at the Dunedin Chinese Garden. And a special guest also travelled from Christchurch to participate.
Honouring the harvest in a sense of community. Hundreds of people spent yesterday celebrating the annual Moon Festival at the Dunedin Chinese Garden. A wide variety of participants were involved in activities such as making mooncakes and lanterns and learning calligraphy. Even the Christchurch-based Chinese Consul General visited.
It shows that people really enjoy the festival and enjoy the Chinese culture, especially enjoying being together to celebrate the festival together with the Chinese communities.
Members of the local Chinese community were celebrating both the Moon Festival and China's National Day, which falls on the 1st of October. Among other performances, the Otago Southland Chinese Association put on a lion dance, and the Chinese Seniors Association showed off a drumming display. It's the second time the Consul General's attended the event, and he says he's honoured to take part.
Our consulate covers the whole South Island, and Dunedin is the second largest city in South Island, and so whenever the local communities organize some big events at the special occasions, whenever possible, I would certainly like to come here to join with the local people.
Nationally, Chinese visitor numbers jumped almost 28% over the year to July 2016. So while in Dunedin, the Consul General was checking on how the influx of tourists is affecting the city.
Just now, after I talked with several of the staff working in the garden, it seemed to me that they have more Chinese visitors who came to the Chinese gardens.
It took the Dunedin Chinese Garden staff over 6 weeks to prepare for this year's Moon Festival, with a team of 15 keeping things moving on the day. They say, despite the less than stellar weather, more than 700 people attended. Jack Conroy, The South Today.
And that's all for this edition of Southern Newsweek. You can see more of Southern News by following us on Facebook, YouTube and Twitter, or via our website, channel39.co.nz. I'm Holly Buchanan. Thanks for watching.
supporting local content so you can see more of New Zealand on air.